Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's got his own private thoughts, so stop butting in. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
I hope you love this song because you're going to be hearing it for the next hour and 45 minutes.
And he's a big Olivia Rodrigo fan, and he's not afraid to admit it. Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear in a tiny cowboy hat. And that was last week, man. Last week.
Oh, listen, when he said that about whoever this singing lady is, I was just like, that is absolutely Bruce on Olivia Rodrigo. And if you don't understand what that is, go listen to last week's episode. You'll enjoy quite a bit. And speaking of enjoying quite a bit, we have enjoyed. I don't know, going through a lot of different things on this show, but I don't know that we've ever come across something quite like this. We are talking today about Super Fuzz, a.k.a. Super Snooper, a.k.a. Poliziotto superpiù. It's Italian.
Italian.
It's Italian. It's from Sergio.
For Super Cop.
Is that where the main character learned to speak English from lessons taught by that Schwarzenegger guy?
Might as well have been. But it's from director Sergio Corbucci, who you might know from... that's
Django.
Dang it. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Here we go. Django. I was just going to, anytime we can say Corbucci, you just have to throw in that there just because it's.
That's pretty good.
Hey, guys, don't spoil it because I haven't made it to the end of Django yet. But do I need to know what's in that coffin?
Nah, you'll be all right.
All right.
But before we get to all that, we do want to say a big thank you to the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and a whole bunch of stuff. And let me tell you something. Dinger Zone's good. Dinger Zone's great. But what you may not know is the pre-show, post-show, and stuff like that. There are things in there that if you're not listening to that stuff, you're missing out on, frankly, a lot about where this show is going. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
It's true. This week specifically.
It's very interesting. So, I mean,
in all fairness, there was zero Django talk, though. So you didn't miss that.
No, you didn't miss any Django talk. Not there.
Django.
That's going to be
That's it. I'm going to fast forward and see what's in that. I'll be right back. I'm going to see what's in that coffee.
He's going. So we got two ones. We got that one, and we have. That's I'm just so happy I could put those on the soundboard. We may just use those infinitum. I don't know.
Is that the Super Snooper theme song you were playing that second one?
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. I couldn't hear it real well, but that's what I thought.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, we can't hear it when you hit that soundboard.
It's all right.
Well, but
anyways, the people at home will enjoy it.
You don't mind.
No, you don't. All right, anyway.
See, that's what I like about you, Adam. You produce a show the same way I do.
You just don't care what anyone else does, and you just got to go ahead and roll as is.
Somebody says, you ought to put some bed music on that. And I go, you know what? I ought to. And I never do.
All right, anyways, what the heck's going on? This show's already off the rails. But if you can't support us over at Patreon, for the love of Pete, why don't you go over to iTunes, drop us a 5-star review, a.k.a. a humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we'd really appreciate that. It's been a moment, and quite frankly, I think all of you have stopped caring. And I need you to really start caring and just drop a 5-star review on iTunes, okay? It'd make my day a lot better.
Humdinger.
Otherwise, we're just it's bad. It's bad news.
They want us to start putting our show on TikTok in 7-minute increments.
Oh, God, it would kill everybody. Everybody. Let's get into it. Here's the trailer for Super Trooper.
Meet America's newest superhero, David Speed, Super Fuzz. He's a whiz in the pool hall, a marvel in the parking lot, and one of the best bullet catchers in the business. Meet Super Fuzz, the craziest cop this side of Inspector Clouseau. Super Fuzz, a blockbusting, high-flying, water-walking, smooth-talking, fleet-footed, skydiving, hard-driving, crime-fighting, all-American hero. Super Fuzz, just for the fun of it.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Super Fuzz / Super Troopers / an Italian name. I won't be able
Super
to
Snoopers, not Super Troopers.
Super Snoopers. See, that how long's that movie been around? 2 decades or something at this point? I can't be faulted.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Oh, what do we got this week?
Well, comics have always had their fair share of superhero cops. I believe Martian Manhunter may have been a cop on his home planet, but I can't really remember what the name of his home planet was. There's Hollis Mason. He was a cop. And, of course, he was the original Night Owl in Watchmen. Nova was a space cop, and the undisputed king of comic book super cops has to be the Silver Age Green Lantern. Because what is a Green Lantern if not a space cop? And you've got Hal Jordan there, and the crashed spaceship gives him his power, much like this crashed rocket in the air gives Super Fuzz his power. And, the Golden Age Green Lantern, his weakness was wood, but that Silver Age Green Lantern, when he first showed up, his weakness was a color, and that color was yellow, which is, if you know your Roy G. Biv, it's right, only orange comes between red and yellow there. And then he also had a great sidekick, just like Ernest Borgnine, only his sidekick was a guy named Guy. Not really his sidekick, but still, he was the reserve Green Lantern, Guy Gardner. And I think Ernest Borgnine as Guy Gardner is the kind of thing that just makes me smile. Like, I want to see him play Guy Gardner. It is Ernest Borgnine-iest with like the wig on, kind of like the Mo Howard wig, only it's red and he's got the puffy boots and he's just running his jabberjaw while the other guy there is Hal Jordan. But yeah, I think that's an awesome idea. And speaking of awesome ideas, Adam, do you have a list?
Well, if that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this new Italian superhero-esque kind of flick, because this sucker's got everything. We've got an eye-opening title sequence that will leave your retinas burning and your TV out of ISA calibration. We got police canoeing, rocket launching Ernest Borgnine. We've got a guy who looks like Steve McQueen and Ed Helms have a special needs brother. Scientific mishmash. We got a gypsy bouncy house. Check that. They think that's a teepee or something. Oh, that's not good. NASA stock footage. Alligator in a boat. Warning shot to missile explosion. Followed immediately by catchy 80s music. We got so much traffic directing. Telepathic manhole cover. Great name for a punk band. Obvious voiceover telling you exactly what you just saw. That's brilliant. We got 2 cops with banter that makes Statler and Wardolph look like My Dinner with Andre. It's oh boy, so good. Gum chewing, elephant crossing, extended walking baselines, parallel parking a moving vehicle with your mind just to be an a-hole, robbing a business with wood paneling, stair climbing while hugging, red shag, yellow shag, smashing out of a high-rise building only to land softly on one's feet, gambling in a U-Haul, a football game that breaks out. Don't worry, we do a lot of running. Supermarket sweet pantyhose head, ADR recording in an indoor public pool. All of a sudden, this movie turns into The Room. I would very much like to be swimming with you. A little bit of sacrilege thrown in for good measure. That's always fun. We got a full body cast. Dave's not here, man. Disco fair, a decent fight scene with a soundtrack by a Miami Sound Machine ripoff, a villain named Paradise, and he dresses exactly like Panama Jack if Panama Jack was fun. Okay. We got a purple actress singer. I'm not sure what this old lady does. We do the can because we can. That's right.
Boom!
We got a circle of slaps and a roadside sobriety test, dog racing. Our hero shifts into something that's, it's kind of rapey. I didn't see that one coming.
Kind of.
Cut directly to Topless Club. Don't worry, there's no actual nudity in this thing. We got all wood and brick paneling, pool hustling, the cleanest toilets in Italy, bathroom. That's super funny if you've seen the movie. Bathroom dancing, helicopter in a parking lot, fishy money, smashing through a brick wall and driving into the river after thwarting the electric chair. Talking to the fishes, frozen Borgnine, flying chewing gum balloon, a seaplane you'd never set foot in, and the coolest, most understanding girlfriend in the world. Also, and the Ernest Borgnine is so fat joke to end them all, and the saddest wedding I've ever seen committed to film. This movie has everything.
This is by far your best opening ever, Adam. This is just terrific.
I'm standing as I clap, just so you know.
Just terrific. So,
Brava.
so I've got to ask you guys,
Yes.
before we get into the nitty gritty, before we do the breakdown of this movie, do you have a past with this thing?
I was single digit years old
Mhm.
last time I saw this. Single digit years old.
Mhm.
I remember it like you would not freaking believe. That is how much of a mark it made on me. This was probably my favorite movie for about 2 years.
Mhm.
Wow.
And boy, I also like, I'll just say a few basic things because I know we're going to go into it beat by beat. I saw it as a straightforward superhero story as a single digit year old kid.
Yep, me too.
I did not think it was like goofy. I also thought like Ernest Borgnine was just the best. And like I think I briefly went through a phase where I thought maybe I wanted to be a stuntman because I figured if Ernest Borgnine could do it, I could do it. And I'm pretty sure I thought this took place in New York because I'd never been anywhere, so I didn't know the difference between New York and Miami on screen.
Well, it's neither, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I have the same thing. You know, I saw this movie as a child. I remembered it incorrectly, and I even said it, during one of the pre-shows, is that I remembered it as being on HBO all the time. But when I was talking to my friends about this movie this week, they reminded me that we didn't watch it on HBO. We watched it because, being from New England, everything came out of Boston, and Boston had like 5 movies they would play. That's all they had. And this was one of those movies. And so we watched this in old Godzilla movies all the time, but it would just trade off between Super Fuzz and Godzilla versus, whomever.
See, for me, it was HBO at my grandma's house because I didn't have HBO at my house, and it was Super Fuzz and Hero at Large.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember way back, 10 years ago when we were in the planning stages of this podcast that I said, not just your typical comic book heroes. I said Super Fuzz is the kind of movie we should cover. And I never thought it'd take us 10 years to get to it, but I'm glad we got there.
Man, this was one of my first suggestions also. It was this. It's the movie Chomps and Darkman, and we've done 2 of the 3 after this week.
I'd never heard of it. Not I even I reached out to a buddy of mine who actually lives in Atlanta, Sean, who I think you two should probably meet up. You'd be like 2 tall, handsome dudes with mustaches going out and drinking in rooms with wood paneling. I'm telling you.
You make me just want to hang out and like bring them napkins or something.
Yeah, well, his name is Mike Malloy. He does a whole lot of he's kind of an expert on tough guy movies and stuff, and really knows a whole bunch about like Italian tough guy films and stuff like that. Sergio Corbucci, of course, being one of those directors that's very he had not seen this. He's like I just mentioned it on some like DVD bonus feature he's doing for some company or something like that, where he mentioned Super Fuzz. But he's like, I've still yet to actually even see that. And I was like, so maybe it hasn't been seen, but you guys, it was like an HBO kind of a thing, or other places, I guess, as much. So my guess is it was probably quite cheap for them to get the rights to air that sucker on television.
It had to have been, because it wasn't one of those movies where. It wasn't one of those movies where like you could ever see it. You'd never see it in a movie theater or anything like that. It was like, it was always on TV.
Yeah. And I remember at the time not thinking there was any difference in the production value of this and any other movie.
It's true. But when you're a kid, that's the way things are, And
plus, I mean, you're watching a 13-inch screen.
Yeah, it's true.
And you don't notice that this is formatted for, this is more of a square format.
Okay, so can we start with the breakdown, because we got a lot to cover here.
Yes.
There is a lot. Okay, so we start on the opening credits, which look like Predator Vision.
These probably deserve a place in cinema history as the worst looking opening credits of any film.
Might. You have a point. These things. It's not just that it's bad. It's that it's bad for 2 minutes and 35 seconds. It's ridiculous.
It is just like it's a test to see how fast you can get a migraine just by staring at a picture.
It honestly looks like your computer messed up when you were exporting your file, and they just didn't have enough time to do it again, and they ran with it. I mean, it looks like a terrible mistake, not something you do on purpose.
They can't read that codec or something.
The only thing that saves it is the opening theme song, which, you know, they play again and again and again in this movie.
Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the one.
But it's fine because it's great. Okay, then after the world's worst opening credits, we then cut to a news broadcast outside of the state penitentiary, and we know it's the state penitentiary because it says so in big black letters on the front. State penitentiary, even though it looks a lot like a production studio.
Those are the best when you see that, or those like we watched some movie recently where they were like bank. They just like wrote it on the side of a truck, and you're like, that's the truck for the bank.
That's the bank truck.
Same
But
difference.
we learn really quickly that the state will be attempting to execute ex-police officer David Speed for the 4th time, and that he's been charged with the murder of his friend, colleague, and superior officer, Sergeant Willie Dunlop. There's people picketing the execution with signs and chanting, and it's a really messy scene down at the, quote, prison, end quote. We then cut to an 80s hot lady doing laundry, and we learn that the state has tried the gas chamber and hanging and firing squad, and yet David Speed survives. Then we cut to a guy that's clearly in his 70s watching the television broadcast. He's a mobster talking to his flunkies. And this is the moment when even the dumbest of adults can tell that this wasn't shot in America. It's a bunch of Italians just pretending to be Americans. And these mobsters are wearing suits that would have Doug Stanhope drooling. And the phone rings, and we see the Guinness Book of World Records holder for world's largest cell phone get pulled out. And the mobsters are talking to a lady who pulls up to the prison, and she says, "Don't worry, it's all been arranged. Nothing can go wrong this time." And this lady drives by another lady who's talking to that same reporter we saw in the first scene. And she's holding a basset hound, and she says, "Leopold hardly says a word these days. He's so depressed because he's against the death penalty."
Now, I have to talk a little bit before we go
Please.
past some of this stuff.
Please.
Because, number one, they put so much effort into Leopold for that not to matter at all for the rest of the movie. Like
We never
now,
see that lady again.
Check
We
off
never see her
Leopold.
again.
my mind just runs wild with what is going on with Leopold. Like when she said he doesn't talk as much, I want to see the movie Leopold, the talking depressed dog. Like
I don't
want to
be in this world anymore.
the anti-death sentence advocate Leopold, the not quite purebred basset hound, right? Like let's be honest, there's a little beagle mixed in there or something.
That's
And
why
then
I
also-
love that dog so much.
Rosie LaBouche. That literally means rosy lips in French, or rosy mouth. But Rosie LaBouche, the lady that drops off the red roses,
Yes.
in my mind as a kid, I remember thinking that must be what an elegant, sexy woman looks like. Like I had no life experience, but I remember at the time just going with it. I thought, okay, that will be my ideal. I'm so glad that my school has the teachers it does.
Orthopedic
after
shoes
this-
are sexy.
So after this lady with the basset hound walks away, with Leopold walks away, the reporter then walks up to one of the only two African-American people in this movie. And he asks, "What do you think, sir?" To which the man responds, "I'm glad I'm not in his place. I know he can't be feeling too good."
Clever.
This sounds
Got
like
him.
no human being like this, because it's an Italian movie, so this was all dubbed in later. But like, I don't think they have any idea what a black person sounds like.
And I don't know exactly when it kicks in, but boy, they not only 80-yard, they 80-yard with the worst room tone in the history of recorded
Man,
sound.
it is so, the room tone is so thick in this movie that it's charming. I find it charming.
I
Now,
thought
Adam-
Sebastian was going to start singing Under the Sea at any moment. It is just,
Adam,
it's warbly.
Have you ever had like really, really bad burned, distorted audio and you just throw every filter imaginable on it, trying to salvage it somewhat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It gets that underwater sound. Like way before they had the ability to digitally ruin their sound, they managed to do it analog and sound just like every single filter's thrown on at once.
batteries were low in the Nagra, so it didn't work.
Yeah.
So at this scene where the African American, one of two African American gentlemen in this movie says, "I know we can't be feeling too good." I paused it for a second, and if you pause your TV like I did, you can see in the background that a couple of the picket signs are misspelled, which makes sense because there's no way in hell that English was the prop team's first language. So it can be forgiven. It can be forgiven. So
Also very believable if it's set in Florida.
yeah, I'm not wrong, but it's not set in Florida. It's set in America.
There's an alligator. It
was a
Florida.
nondescript city in the United States of America that has alligators.
It's in America. Yeah, it has
they did a close up of the Orange Bowl's like marquee so that you know they were in the Orange Bowl. But I'm getting ahead of you.
So the evil woman Rosie LaBouche pulls up to the prison gates with red flowers, hands off the bouquet to the guards, saying they're for David Steed. And we know she's up to no good because she's a well-dressed middle-aged woman. And in the 70s and 80s, well-dressed middle-aged woman is shorthand for bad person.
Though I thought it was shorthand for beauty ideal. I had no idea.
Much like when you see someone smoking a cigarette in a movie these days, you know that person is bad news. So we then cut into the jail cell and meet the man himself, David Steed, played by Terrence Hill. Do you guys know anything about Terrence Hill?
I don't, but he's a handsome guy despite his inability to speak well.
So I know, well, he can speak incredibly well. And to me, because, he's got accented Italian, English, but accented Italian English. But he speaks English really well. It's just, let's not pretend that he can speak with an American accent. I mean, he's clearly Italian. But here's the deal with him, is that because I know a ton about this guy. And Adam, I think I was talking to you about him maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago. Terrence Hill is the guy who took over for Clint Eastwood with the spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and he's in My Name Is Nobody, where Henry Fonda is the bad guy, and just great movie, and written by Sergio Leone. He's in the Trinity movies, like My Name Is Trinity, My Name Is Still Trinity. He's a cowboy.
Your Fistful of Dynamite, stuff like that.
Yes, Fistful of Dynamite. That's the same guy. Fistful of Dynamite.
So I've seen a lot of his movies as a kid. Just back then, you don't really take the time to learn the name of the actors.
And he and Bud Spencer are in something ridiculous, like 60 movies together, where they're a comedy duo, and they're usually in the Old West. And the deal is that Bud Spencer is the super strong guy, and Terrence Hill is the really good looking skinny guy who just eats food constantly and is always tired, which is why when it shows up in this movie that he's constantly eating, I'm like, oh, that's a holdover from his Westerns where this character's just always eating. And I remember I watched Super Fuzz a bunch when I was a kid, and I've seen a bunch of Terrence Hill movies since then. So it was such a nice surprise to know that Terrence Hill is the lead in this movie. I was like, oh my God, the worlds are colliding. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bruce. I cut you off.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just going to say that Terrence Hill is not like his real name, though, right? Not his given name.
No, of course not.
That's a name to try to make people think he's American, yes. I'm going to guess.
It's a Babidi Boop. I mean, it's pretty much, it's not.
Yeah, I mean,
that's his name, Babidi Boop.
Him and his movie partner, Bud Spencer, neither one of them, that was what they were, names they were born with. I mean, come on.
Don't say.
Now, Terrence Hill's biggest stretch of a role was playing Cat Stevens. I mean, the movie was called God Forgives, I Don't, but his character's name was Cat Stevens.
Oh, wow.
I just happened to see that. I'm just like, okay, first of all, God Forgives, I Don't is an amazing title.
Yeah.
And the fact that he plays a cat named Cat Stevens is hilarious. But
we will probably, I don't know, man. I don't know the timeline on when that movie was made, but it'd be fun if you found out that's why Cat Stevens chose the name Cat
It's
Stevens.
1967, so like I said, no.
Probably not going to make it. That would be cool if that was the origin story.
Or if they
Kinda
just
like
stole
how
it from
Popeye's
there.
chicken is named after Popeye Doyle.
That's so crazy, man. Learning that Popeye's chicken is named after Popeye Doyle and not Popeye. It's so insane. It's so insane.
Oh, and I saw somebody on TikTok that started calling it Pope Yes, and it took me a long time to figure out what Pope Yes chicken was.
Bone apple tea. So, right. So we're in the jail cell, and we finally meet up with Terrence Hill, and he's eating a big plate of beans like you do when you're about to be sent to the electric chair. And
I think I do give this movie the sole credit for the way that I love to eat large quantities of beans and just puzzle people with my love of them.
Spread out in an odd plate.
Yes.
We learn he's on his 14th plate of beans.
And I thought that was a real accomplishment. Like as a kid, I thought that was like body goals. You know, I want to be the kind of guy that can eat 14 plates of beans without stopping.
And so all I can figure out is that like David Speed is basically trying to turn himself into a human piñata, but instead of candy falling out, it's just beans falling out.
See, they said something about maybe if the electric chair doesn't work, they'll try the gas chamber. And all I could think is any chamber he's in is a gas chamber at this point.
So Terrence Hill asked for yet another plate of beans. Only this time he wants Zuki beans.
What the heck is a Zuki bean? I
I'm glad you asked because it's something I never heard of, and I looked it up, and it's either short for Adzuki beans or it's the name of a certain strand of marijuana.
Oh,
and I'm going to guess it's a veiled pot reference because this movie was made in the 70s.
Give me them Zuki beans.
And the guard says he's never heard of Zuki beans, but he'll see if the cook can find some for lunch. To which the second African-American man in this movie, one of two, says lunch. Man, by the time lunch rolls around, you're going to be eating with the honky number one, which I guess means God.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Elvis.
The guards roll around and they start walking him to the death chamber. And this is where the sporadic, terrible voiceover from Terrence Hill starts. And if there was any question left in your mind of whether or not this movie was made by Italians, 2 seconds into this voiceover, you're not questioning that anymore. You know. Now, Terrence Hill speaks incredibly well, but it's with an accent. It's not like listening to the guy from the Matrix sequels who's French and he speaks with a perfect British accent.
yeah.
It's not like that. So we learn. So he says in the voiceover, he goes, "It seems like only yesterday when I graduated from the police academy and got my first solo assignment."
Yes.
Which leads us to a flashback that's going to be around for the rest of the movie.
I'd forgotten it. I'd forgotten that. By the time we got back to it, was like, oh right, he's on death row. We've just flashed back for 95 minutes.
Also important, because this is going to be very important when we get to what you think is the end of the movie, but not quite the end of the movie, is that this is the 5th attempt to execute this man, just to let you know how much time must have passed between the beginning of his flashback and the beginning of the movie.
So much time. We then cut to stock footage of a rocket blasting off, and this is where we learn about the concept of this movie, like where it starts from.
Can I tell you what I think they did to get this stock footage of a rocket taking off?
Mm-hmm.
I really think they filmed a TV that was showing it.
Oh, that's probably right.
Because the rocket is in focus, but then a dragonfly flies between the camera and the rocket, and it's perfectly in focus. So you know that I don't care how good your split diopter lens is, you don't get a dragonfly and a rocket ship in focus at the same time in stock footage.
So this rocket is carrying a payload of red plutonium, and it's a top secret substance for testing materials below the moon's crust. And NASA is performing a test with this red plutonium in a place that doesn't matter to anyone in this movie, an Indian reservation.
Oh my goodness. Now, I can't wait to get into how he gets to this Indian reservation. Pray continue.
And so they cut to a corner of the NASA building where we see a bunch of angry Native Americans, and every one of them are dressed up in stereotypical Native American clothes. And they're like and we have to thank well, he doesn't say Native Americans. I think he just says Indians. We have to thank And we have to thank our Indians, true blue patriots, American patriots. And they cut to a corner of NASA where the angriest Native Americans I've ever seen are all standing in a corner. There's like 12 of them. And there's like a baby and a kid who doesn't want to be there. It's pretty amazing. We then cut to Terrence Hill, who is rowing a canoe. Here we go, Bruce. Who's rowing a canoe out to the reservation where the NASA testing is being done. He's been told by his superior officer that he needs to collect the payment of a parking ticket from one of the natives. And this is the moment you realize you're not only watching an Italian superhero movie, but you're watching an Italian superhero movie made for children, because one in the movie is taking this very seriously, that this man is rowing to his death.
Okay, so here is where I want to please help you a little bit on this, because my favorite line, maybe my favorite line of the movie, happens here when he calls back to the station and he goes into what they call a teepee or something, though it doesn't look like a teepee to me, but he says, "I'm entering the domicile. I'm going to tape the notice to their totem pole."
Yes.
That is a direct quote from this movie. Now, the guy's a motorcycle cop, and as a kid, I never questioned, like, where did the canoe come from? Like, was he cruising to this place with a canoe strapped on the back of his motorbike?
I'd like to think that he commandeered it. He flashed his thing and said, "Police, get out of the canoe," and then gets inside of it and then takes off. And
he's going to deliver a notice for unpaid parking tickets to a house that doesn't have electricity or water or anything.
A front door.
How do they have a car? Like, did they get parking tickets for their canoe? I don't know what kind of parking ticket you get when you live in a flap of cloth thrown over a tree.
Your
like they made
double parked, ma'am.
We then cut to the police station where we finally see the true star of the movie, Ernest Borgnine. And the cops are attempting to call off Terrence Hill from going to the reservation because there's about to be a giant reservation-sized hole where the reservation used to be. And Ernest Borgnine is playing the scene like he's watching TV to see if he's won the lottery numbers.
I love Ernest Borgnine. I got to say, here and now, I don't know if I'm always a Borgnine fan, but in this movie, this is the best Borgnine's ever been. This is prime Borgnine.
Well, I was going to say, you have said before you were one of the nines.
Yes. But this is the Borgniniest Borgnine I've seen. And I feel like he's decided Terrence Hill just isn't bringing enough enthusiasm, so he's going to make up for it by bringing enough for both of them.
Man, he brings it in spades. And we learn that the only reason why Terrence Hill is out at the reservation in the first place is because Ernest Borgnine sent him out there, and the police chief is giving Borgnine crap about it. And Terrence Hill starts walking through the center of the reservation, what looks like a summer camp for children in the 50s, even though they didn't know they were being racist at the time. It's totally racist. And I found myself laughing because you know that those Italians thought they were doing a good job representing this reservation.
Yes, they did.
But Terrence Hill can't find the guy he's trying to get money from. And as all of this is happening, the guy who's playing bass guitar on the soundtrack is taking that sucker for a walk. It is an amazing soundtrack. Now, when Terrence Hill goes back to his canoe, he sees an alligator in it, and he's about to shoot it. But instead, he decides to fire off a warning shot to try and scare it. And when he does this, he shoots the rocket that's in space holding the red plutonium.
So are we clear that he shot the rocket, or was it just a coincidence? Like the rocket was supposed to.
He absolutely shot that rocket with his handgun.
But wasn't the rocket supposed to explode there anyway? So
it was supposed to deliver a payload. It wasn't supposed to explode.
Okay, and that's what one bullet does to a rocket.
That is exactly. I can't convey to you here the level to which, if you have not seen this movie, just how satisfying this scene is, because they've been setting it up and setting it up and setting it up.
You're like, why are we shooting back at this missile thing? What's going on? What's the deal? You don't even realize. And then like a 45-degree angle, he points his gun at the sky, which was really weird.
and it's the last thing you would ever expect to have happen when he shoots off that gun as a warning shot.
But as a child, it's why I would have been deathly afraid of firing a gun straight up in the air.
Of course. But as an adult, it is literally the last thing that you think is going to happen when he fires off that gun. And it is so satisfying. And it made me laugh so hard when I watched it again. It made me laugh so hard. I was like, of course he shot the rocket in space with his handgun.
And it explodes so quickly. There's not
a
like
great
a chance.
explosion.
It's not like there's like a chance for like here's how long it'll take the bullet to get up there because it's still a while. It is almost instantaneous, as if it was over his head directly 5 feet.
It is immediate. It is wonderful.
Bang boom.
And the editing is seamless. It looks so believable.
Oh my God. And it is one of the 5 reasons why you need to watch this movie is because of that scene.
He's just
Now,
rolling
here's
around.
what I suspect. I suspect, Sean, that somebody had a little bit of footage of a rocket exploding. They're like, we got to do something with this. And they built this movie around it. And I'm not trying to make a joke. I honestly think that may have happened.
I disagree. I think that it all has to do with, hey, this Superman's doing real well. Let's make one of those.
Yeah.
But how easy is it for an Italian production to get footage of an exploding rocket? Because they're not making that themselves.
No, definitely not. And here's the other thing too. Here's the thing about alligators. Having had dealt with them on in my own past here,
Wrestling.
Is they no, not wrestling. If you try to shoot one with a handgun, you're not going to kill the alligator. I don't know if you knew that or not. Like a simple handgun is not going to kill an alligator.
Alligators wear bulletproof vests. Don't y'all know nothing?
The hide is too thick. Like a simple handgun's bullet, unless you have like a super powerful, dirty, hairy handgun.
Let me play Bruce Leslie for a second.
Hey.
What if I shoot it in the eyeball?
Oh, I was going to say, what if I aim for the cloaca?
That's a better word.
Maybe.
I don't know if I'm a cloaca hitting level sharpshooter, but I would imagine you get it right in the cloaca. It's like that one weak spot on the Death Star.
But basically, you're just going to make the alligator mad, and the alligator will come after you even more so because you just tried to hurt it.
Because you shot for its cloaca and missed.
So basically what I'm trying to say is Terrence Hill did the right thing by accidentally shooting down that rocket from space. That's basically my long-winded way of saying. That's the
only way he survives that encounter is to get superpowers, and he played it that way.
Yes, exactly. So after he blows up the rocket, everything turns red, and everyone at the police station thinks he's dead. And Ernest Borgnine gets busted down to traffic duty for sending a rookie to his death. And that, which brings me to this. I have a question for you guys here. Now, whenever anyone starts talking about the lowest rung of like working in TV and movies, they always say something like, oh, I had to get everyone's coffee. Like it's the lowest position you can have in the business. But the fact is there's way worse jobs you can have in the movie industry than getting someone's coffee. So I wonder if it's the same thing with cops, where everybody makes the joke of like, oh, you're going to have traffic duty, because it seems like it's a bad job, but there's got to be something worse, right? Like
in fact, I bet you there are people that have to work their way up to traffic duty. Like I bet it's kind of a cush gig because you're not talking to anybody. You get to dance, you get to blow a whistle, you get to point, you get to perform a little bit. I've seen those traffic cops. They know what they're doing.
We had one up at my elementary school when we were growing up. This little black lady, she was amazing. She danced through all of that stuff and like. That everybody got to where they were going because of that lady. When she was gone, it all went downhill.
Nobody hates a traffic cop. Somebody gives you a ticket, you're mad at them. You know what I mean? Somebody gives you a parking ticket, you're mad. But the traffic cop, man, you just wave and smile and wink.
You keep going, sweetheart. You keep going. Come on.
So then we get to the second best reason why you need to watch this movie, which is watching Ernest Borgnine direct actual Italian traffic in this movie. And I don't mean within the movie. I don't mean within the movie. I mean he's directing actual honest to God traffic.
A lot of confused Italians.
You can tell it's real traffic because there's people in line getting actually truly upset waiting in their cars. And there's cars and buses that are coming off the highway. And you're not shutting down a highway for a movie like Super Fuzz. They don't have the money for it.
You went over another great quote though here that I'm going to try to get out. It's like
Yes.
when they said that Speed dies. I think the comment that Ernest Borgnine has is he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best cadet in his class, but he was a person. He basically said, "Yeah, I'm not surprised. He was kind of stupid."
It felt like, he was downplaying it right away, where he was just like, listen, not for nothing, but we kind of knew he was going to die.
I mean, he wasn't the best in his class, but he was a person.
I guess we got to feel sorry for him.
So then, while Ernest Borgnine is directing traffic, we see Terrence Hill, who is now super powered and is now truly Super Fuzz, and that's all I will call him from this point forward.
Nice.
We see that Super Fuzz is fine, and he pulls up on his Chips motorcycle to talk to Ernest Borgnine, and the first super powered act happens where Ernest Borgnine is so amazed that he sees Super Fuzz alive that he's about to walk into an open manhole when Super Fuzz uses his mind to move the sewer grate back over the sewer, saving Ernest Borgnine, but trapping the sanitation men working below forever.
That is the point I was going to make. I'm so glad you made it, Sean. But when I saw that this time through, I thought, who's the hero and who's the villain? It's all a matter whether you're on top of that hole or underneath it.
The really bad part that they knocked out was when they were welding it shut, and they were like, why would you do that?
Because
safety.
And so now we cut to Ernest Borgnine and Super Fuzz are driving around in their squad car, and we learn how much Ernest Borgnine hates chewing gum for some reason.
Now, Sean, you lived through this, man. There was this weird thing where people hated chewing gum for just existing at around this time. And when you were a kid, there was probably nothing you loved more than some Hubba Bubba. Didn't it have like a cowboy cartoon character that advertised for it?
You're dang right they did. And O.J. Simpson was selling us Hubba Bubba, and we loved it.
I remember at my elementary school, the Hubba Bubba kids and the Bubbalicious kids were always getting in knife fights in the cafeteria.
Man, you guys were nuts about your gum.
And every adult hated it just for existing. Like I get the idea that you hate it when people stick it on things in public, right?
Yes.
That is something worthy of hatred, but people just hated that you were enjoying doing something that they weren't doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, I'm just going to call it as I see it, as a very boomerific thing.
I wish I had some mouth flavor.
Fruit stripe. Back in my day, we were real men. We chewed Beemans and it tasted like licorice.
Oh my Lord. Don't nobody need that.
So you're going to want to remember that Super Fuzz can blow really big bubbles with his gum, because that just might come up later. And Ernest Borgnine is also upset that Super Fuzz survived the explosion, because as he tells him to his face, if a man gets caught in the middle of an atomic blast, the least he could do is drop dead.
Borgnine has got all the best lines, man.
He does, man. He really does. And I think I know where your Ernest Borgnine love comes from, because I looked it up, and he had one hell of a 3-year run, Borgnine, because you've got 79, he's in the black hole. 1980, he's in Super Fuzz. In 1981, he's in Escape from New York. And for me, those are 3 gigantic, like,
especially at the time,
stones of me growing up. Those are 3 humongous movies.
All done better with Borgnine.
And so, but for some reason, okay, so back to the thing. So for some reason, Ernest Borgnine keeps the picture of movie star Rosie LaBouche in the squad car, where Borgnine says the line, "She makes Cheryl Ladd and Farrah Fawcett look like a couple of plain Janes."
Now, how do you think Cheryl Ladd feels when she's watching Super Fuzz? Like she's like just getting comfortable at home in 1981, saying, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check out this beloved movie, Super Fuzz," and then they are throwing shade at her.
I don't think that she would see it as throwing shade. I think that she would be.
Have you seen this Rosie LaBouche character? It's definitely throwing shade.
We'll get to it. So Borgnine starts going off about how he used to be a stuntman, and he clearly has a weird old man thing for him, like my dad when he talks about Jacqueline Smith.
Yes.
He's like, "Oh, shoddy. Jacqueline Smith. She gets my motor running. You know, she's 75 years old. Yeah, Dad, I do know. Shoddy Jacqueline Smith looks great. She looks great. It's so creepy.
A good-looking woman.
Actually, he talks more like this, Shawnee. So we're not 20 minutes into the movie yet. Terrence Hill's already Super Fuzz. We know how Terrence Hill became Super Fuzz, and we are off and running, man. Super Fuzz stops Ernest Borgnine from running over some elephants. Ernest Borgnine doesn't know how Super Fuzz is doing the things he's doing, but he still doesn't think he has superpowers for some reason, and it feels like the first 4 seasons of the X-Files.
And as a child, I just assumed it was perfectly normal for elephants and nuns to cross at the same crosswalk. Like, I imagine they were all going to the same chiropractor or something. But once again, small town kid, you show me anything happening in a big city, and I'm just gullible enough to believe it.
I was really hoping this was going to be like a Pee-wee's Big Adventure kind of thing going. Where we just have a parade of just nonstop.
Oh my God!
craziness.
If you want to get my attention, make your movie more like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, for sure.
And when the elephants first start walking across, you don't see that they have a handler either. Like, I thought we were just going to have a scene with wild elephants walking through Miami.
You know what's the weird part about those elephants is those are some undersized elephants too. Like, they're the size of like a UPS truck.
Well, they don't want to bring the big ones out, man. Not on an Italian budget.
No,
you can't afford the full size.
Tony,
You gotta have Hollywood money if you want to get the big guys. Here, we're sending you the ones that ate second-rate food and didn't quite grow right.
You want Hannibal-sized warrior elephants? You don't have the money for Hannibal-sized warrior elephants. Exactly.
You get these little inbred runts over here that we rent out.
Tony Jaa's not going to be working on your film.
So, inexplicably, I don't know how they do it. We get a helicopter shot of the police squad car just driving around Italy. And the police car pulls up to some laundry with that same 80s hot girl that we saw at the beginning of the movie. And we learn that 80s hot girl is not only Ernest Borgnine's niece, but she's also dating Super Fuzz. Go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the helicopter shots because we get a lot of helicopter action, which lets me know that Carbucci, what's the name of the director?
Sergio Carbucci, director of...
I think Carbucci probably had a friend who did like those helicopter tours of Rome because that's the kind of little helicopters they probably used. So, you know, it's like, wow, they got helicopters in the movie and helicopter shots. He's probably paying the equivalent of $125 in modern cash for a tour of Rome, and he's just taking advantage of it with the camera.
There's that one scene with the helicopter where they are clearly not in a helicopter.
Oh, they're in a helicopter. They're just in a parking lot. They're not in the sky is what they aren't.
You mean they wouldn't really let Terrence Hill fly a helicopter a la Tom Cruise?
I guess not.
I'm just glad that the skies matched. You know, that there was just 2 blue skies. It's fine. I was afraid it was going to be like cut to and then it's a completely cloudy day or something. But it wasn't,
I do have to say, one of the things that surprised me about this movie is the color correction on both cameras is the same, which I wasn't expecting to have happen. And they're using 2 cameras for a lot of this movie, and it all matches. And I was really surprised by that.
Every now and then.
So to kill time, Super Fuzz moves a truck that's in the middle of the road using his mind. And I'll be honest here, this effect is pretty great. And I'm not exactly sure how they achieved moving the truck. It's stop motion, maybe?
That's the only thing that I can figure.
Because there's wire work. There's none of that.
And there's no way they could make miniatures look that good.
That's true. So the only thing I could figure was stop motion.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
So they keep driving around in their squad car, and a call comes on the radio that there's a robbery in progress on the 20th floor of the Johnson building.
This is so good.
And this is when the third reason to watch this movie happens, because they show up to the scene. Both cops get up to the 20th floor, and in this room, the robbery is taking place. They don't just have wall-to-wall carpeting. No. The carpeting is also on the walls. So you know that these people are fabulously wealthy.
I feel like this building was in an episode of the Nicholas Hammond 1970s Spider-Man too.
It might have been. And these robbers, they have hostages. And here it comes. Here comes the thing that I want to talk about so bad, which is both Ernest Borgnine and Super Fuzz decide that they're going to charge the door and bust their way in. But just as Super Fuzz is about to break down the door, one of the robbers opens that door, and Super Fuzz runs past the scene of the crime and falls out the window of the 20th floor.
The best scene in cinema history up until this point.
Where once he falls out of that window, he's magically transformed into a dummy dressed in a cop uniform.
And then softly and gingerly lands.
And just as he's about to hit the ground, we switch camera angles, and the dummy turns back into Super Fuzz, where he lands in front of an old Italian hobo who can't believe what he just saw.
The only thing that was missing was him looking at the brown bag and throwing it in the trash.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I just wanted to see him like throwing that booze bottle away.
No more for me.
But I don't think that the Italians have that technology yet.
The throwing out alcohol?
Yeah.
I don't have that technology over here, no, sir.
I know they're behind our comedy technology a little bit. So once he falls, when Super Fuzz falls, which by the way, I cannot tell you, this is the second part of this movie where I am laughing hysterically watching this movie.
I can't believe too that we kind of brushed over Ernest Borgnine charging up 20 floors of stairs, because boy, he gets up 20 floors of stairs about like I would. Like he's literally being drugged through the door by his shoulders. And then he says, not once, but I counted, I think 6 times. You charge the door, I'll cover you from the rear. You charge the door, I'll cover from back here. You charge the door, and I'll cover you from back here. He says like 6 times before that greatest scene ever shot happens, where he runs, they open the door kind of Olay style and right out the window.
It is so surprising when it happens too.
And if you're robbing someplace, why are you on the 29th floor? And also, why does your 29th floor just still covered in wood paneling? It's unbelievable.
If you listen to the radio, they're robbing the Johnson & Johnson building. So, like, are they still in sand soap? They don't keep a lot of cash around like corporate centers for major manufacturers, do they?
Oh my God. Well, first of all, let's make some corrections here. The lobby is in wood paneling, but once you get into the room where the robbery is happening, it's just all carpeting and ceiling.
That's true.
and
I know we had vacuum cleaners in the 80s. In 1980, we had vacuum cleaners. Why does everything look so dingy?
Because everyone's smoking.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
It is. I mean, that is literally the reason.
And your carpet's so high, you don't use a vacuum so much as you do a rake.
Also true.
This was when you would take like a big hit off of your cigar and you'd chase it with a cigarette, like a small hit off your cigarette to wash it down.
So once Super Fuzz safely lands with his superpowers, they then speed up the film, and Super Fuzz runs up 20 flights of stairs and gets back into the same room where the robbery is taking place. Super Fuzz punches through the door with both fists, knocking out 2 of the 3 robbers. Then he grabs Ernest Borgnine's gun from the 3rd robber and thwarts the robbery. And for some reason, immediately, Ernest Borgnine is taking credit for stopping this robbery.
I love that guy, man. And this is not necessarily a compliment to my skills, but I feel like I could have written some great dialogue for Ernest Borgnine in this movie.
We will get to that later, sir. So as they're driving away from the thwarted robbery and their heroes, and Ernest Borgnine is taking all the credit, they get back into their squad car. And immediately, Super Fuzz uses his X-ray vision and sees that there's illegal gambling going on in an 18-wheeler. So they pull the truck over, and when they open the back door to the truck, not only is there illegal gambling happen, but everyone is formally dressed.
I love this so much. Do you have
Okay.
any idea of how many ideas that I had growing up as a kid to throw parties in vans and stuff that rolled around? Like, I had it all the time. I was just like, wouldn't it be great to get one of these big giant vans and just load it up with a bunch of people and some bands and stuff and just drive around and have
Now,
like a traveling show?
I'm going to stand by this being allegedly Miami because they do go to a Dolphins game. So I'm going to call this Miami, even though we know it's not exactly
Are
Miami.
we sure those are the Dolphins?
Well,
I
it's
thought
the
that
Orange
was-
Bowl. That's where the Dolphins played in 1980, was the Orange Bowl. And it definitely says Orange Bowl.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, so do you know how uncomfortable it would be to be in an unventilated box truck
Oh, my
in
God.
southern Florida with like
Oh, my
12
God.
other people who are all smoking and wearing tuxedos?
Oh my God.
The funk in that has got to be awful. Could you imagine like trying to play craps and the thing hits a pothole and the dice fly and nobody can find them? The chips flying everywhere whenever he has to corner a little bit. Oh man, it seems like a terrible idea, but as a kid, it made perfect sense.
That roulette table's all messed up.
Women
Like,
are wearing.
as a kid, I thought I would never need to buy a house. I would just rent a U-Haul and live in it because it was only $19 a day. Like that's what I thought as a kid.
Yeah, because that's a dumb kid dream. I mean, that's what kids have.
Hold on, let me get my dream journal over here. So I can
Don't
cross
like
something out.
don't like living in Kentucky. I'll just drive my house to California.
I don't know why I have to get my own place. I'm just going to stay in the garage and turn that into my apartment, and I'll buy a motorcycle because it's cheaper than a car.
Yeah.
So when they pull the truck over, you got women wearing evening gowns, you got men wearing tuxedos, and they're in the back of a truck. It's amazing.
This is a recurring way to commit crimes here is to have illegal things in the back of box trucks.
There is a lot of that happening. That is true. But
You
this
know
is
we had
Fast and the
access to
Furious,
box
actually.
trucks.
This
You
is
know
where
that, though?
this is where things start slowing down for the movie to me, because yes, the movie is amazing so far. We've been going at a breakneck pace, but then they keep hitting the same notes, like over and over again. That they could easily shave this movie into a 90-minute movie instead of an hour 45.
Very true.
Like Super Fuzz, it's all, here are always the beats. Super Fuzz does something amazing. No one believes he has superpowers. He sees red, loses his superpowers, doesn't know why he loses his superpowers. So I'm just going to hit the highlights here because otherwise we will make this a 2.5 hour long podcast.
But I think it's worthy of discussing his conceit for his weakness. The color red, he sees the color red, all of his powers are gone. You have to have thoughts about that. First of all, the idea of seeing a color is your weakness. Second of all, red is a primary color, which means there's a whole lot of red out there.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
There's
how did
so
they
much.
avoid red in some of these scenes?
Yeah, because
It's dumb.
It's so many
It's dumb
things.
kid logic. I mean, that's why when we're kids, we're like, man, that's so cool.
True enough.
And so yeah, like and it kind of like in kid logic again, it makes sense. Oh, the rocket had red plutonium, so red is the thing that makes him weak. And it doesn't even make him weak; it just doesn't give him superpowers. It takes away superpowers.
But also,
And so-
he can close his eyes and still be able, as long as he is not actually
Or wear
looking
sunglasses.
At it. Yeah. There's so
Yeah.
many different options that you could do to where you would not have to worry about this being a problem.
Yes. So moving on, Super Fuzz goes to a football game with his 80s hot girlfriend, and he makes all the people disappear. She doesn't know how he did it.
For a moment, I thought he murdered all those folks.
Yeah, I was like, this is the Thanos snap moment of this, where it's just like, I murdered all of these people just so I can make
Just
out with
because
you
I
in a
kind of
football
want to dry
stadium.
hump you a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Oh crap! There's one guy. How did that guy not get blipped? That's what I want.
'Cause he's
to know.
wearing
Had a
red.
red shirt.
On account, there's not one other person in this entire
Hey,
stadium
there were
full of
only
10,000
80,000.
people.
There was only 80,000 people there. That's about right. 1 in 80,000 people wear red on a daily basis.
Dumb kid logic, buddy.
Sheesh.
That's how it works.
Our team colors are gold, so therefore, all right, fair.
So then Super Fuzz sees a robbery happening at a grocery store, and he gets shot at by the guy in the back room, but catches every bullet with the muzzle of his gun, except one bullet, which he catches in his teeth, that's still smoking.
Best moment in the trailer.
Can
I remember that as a kid.
Listen, I don't know from Italy grocery stores and stuff, but this was a real place. This was 100% just a real back of a
for
grocery
sure.
store, because
For sure.
that is That is the Italy equivalent of what that was back there.
Oh, yeah.
On all my old grocery store days when I was like 16.
Man.
And so after they thwart this grocery store robbery, yet again, Ernest Borgnine takes all the credit for what happened.
Love that guy.
And there's a truck that Super Fuzz can see is carrying counterfeit bills, but when they open up the back of the truck, it's red inside. Super Fuzz loses his powers, and Ernest Borgnine calls him an idiot.
He's so slow to catch on to this red thing that it's really almost annoying how dumb he really is.
And talk about a plot that you can't really follow through is you're smuggling counterfeit $1 bills inside of fish within your own town.
Yeah.
They're not even like smuggling it across country in the fish. They're smuggling it from where they print it to where they spend it in the same town via a box truck full of dead fish.
No one would be.
Do you
stupid
really
enough
need
to...
the fish? Could you not just get, and they're $1 bills too. Like, my goodness, who's really going to question you for having a bunch of $1 bills in your wallet?
They literally say that in the movie. They're just like, "This is the stupidest thing in the world." But of course, no one would do this. That's why it's brilliant.
Right.
So fill these fish with almost $1,000.
It was like the problem that they had with Easy Rider. They were not sure what they were going to do, and initially they were just like, "Oh, well, we'll have these guys, transporting, marijuana," and they were like, the amount that we would have to make it worth the money wise, it doesn't make any sense. So sometimes you just got to change plans.
We then cut to Super Fuzz and his 80s hot girlfriend at the beach, or at least they say they're at the beach, but it's actually a sandy bank near a river on the side of a highway.
Hey, listen, that's what the people in Europe call beaches, okay? They have a different idea over there.
And this is where we get our first, this movie was made 40 years ago, because there's a veiled gay joke here where Super Fuzz says, "I'm not normal anymore. I'm different." To which his girlfriend looks at him weird and he goes, "Oh, come on. I'm not that different."
You're a foreigner?
And
I thought it was strangely progressive for the time.
And she leaves to go put on her bathing suit near the side of the highway. And Super Fuzz says the line, "You go ahead and go for a swim. I can't swim. I grew up in the mountains."
I love it.
Which I don't know why that would exclude you from being able to swim, but okay. So Super Fuzz decides he's going to pass the time by messing with some kids who are just minding their own business, playing with a beach ball by using his telekinetics to keep the ball just out of their reach. And it goes deep into the river, to which Super Fuzz says, "Don't worry, I'll get it." And he starts walking on water, making all the small children watching him believe that he's the new Rick Ocasek. Thank you for getting that. I wasn't sure if you would. But his girlfriend appears in a red bathing suit, making him lose his powers and fall into the water. And since he's from the mountains, as he said, he therefore can't swim. And
I am going to point out he becomes an expert swimmer at the end of the movie, but we're not there yet.
Oh, that's right. You are right. I totally missed that. I totally missed that. And so his 80s hot girlfriend has to pull him out of the water and give him mouth to mouth, where they start making out in front of a large group of children.
And I just want to say here that the movies I watched as a child led me to believe CPR was way more erotic than it is in real life.
That's true. You're not wrong. We cut to the police station where Ernest Borgnine and the chief of police still don't believe that Super Fuzz has superpowers, even though he's been showing everyone for the last 45 minutes that his superpowers are real. And to show them all, he jumps out a window, but since there's a red mailbox nearby, he nearly kills himself. And that same Italian hobo sees the whole thing again.
And man, sometimes I have trouble following it. But isn't that hobo significant later on? Like,
yes.
We're supposed to know who this hobo is, but I have no idea who he is.
He owes he owes Tony Torpedo $30,000.
So why is Tony Torpedo lending money to homeless people?
Well, he's not homeless.
But he appears as if he is when you first
we
meet
know
him.
he lives in a filthy shack later.
And he has like a talking dog show that he was famous for.
He was a ventriloquist who lost his voice, is what the newspaper article says.
But he clearly talks in this movie.
No,
Right.
it meant he lost his voice as an artist, Bruce. You should know this.
Why do you say I should know this, Adam?
Because you're an artiste, and you
Oh, I thought you would have lost my voice.
No, well, anyways, I won't.
I was going to see how far you were going to take that out of
Nope.
because I was like, up. Bruce just teed him up to kill him. Since there's a red mailbox nearby, Super Fuzz nearly kills himself, and the Italian hobo sees the whole thing. We cut to the hospital where Super Fuzz in a head-to-toe body cast with a Band-Aid over the nose part of his cast, which is a great touch. and the doctor turns to the closest people in his life, and he says he's gonna die. But when the doctor looks at the X-rays, they find out that Super Fuzz's bones have completely healed. And when they go to tell Super Fuzz the good news, he's mysteriously gone, and only the full body cast remains.
And they never satisfactorily explained to me how he got out of that body cast.
Man, Super Fuzz got to keep some secret
And left it completely intact.
Yeah.
It's like
Maybe
he escaped out the mouth hole or something.
Maybe.
My son, who watched this with me, suggested he could teleport.
Oh, you
Listen,
know what?
dude? He has all kinds of
He
like
does.
He's
what you
Captain
call
Every
it?
Power.
Yeah,
He's like Martian Manhunter that way, really.
Yeah.
Oh, I need this power this week. Well, guess what, kids? Got it.
So we cut to a carnival where Super Fuzz is talking to a giant fat guy dressed like Great Tiger from Punch Out. and he tells Super Fuzz that the old Italian hobo who watched Super Fuzz fall out of 2 different windows used to work for the carnival as a ventriloquist. But he's fallen on hard times and he owes bad people money. And that he lives in an old dirty shack selling dogs. So Super Fuzz goes to this old filthy shack where there's 1 million dogs in crates. Like, crates and dogs are everywhere. They're outside in the backyard, in the kitchen, in the living room.
And when you hear somebody selling dogs, you picture puppies. This is like an animal shelter with full-grown dogs nobody wants.
It is like, I mean, it is like it was like take your dog to work day. Because those dogs are also just like super normal, like
house puppies.
They walk up to the cages and the dogs are like, oh, hey, instead of like, get me out of here. But it's a real serial killer type situation. And 3 mobsters show up and we learn that the old Italian hobo owes them money. And just before a fight breaks out, a 8-minute long fight, by the way, one of the mobsters says, I've seen this guy on TV, but I don't remember if he's a singer or a televangelist.
So this is the part in Silvio's house to me. It gave me a certain tension that I think the only other thing I could say to match it, if you've never seen this movie, is like when Jodie Foster is in Buffalo Bill's house, but he's got the night vision goggles and she can't see where he is, and all that tension is there. I feel that same kind of tension in Silvio's.
It's the same thing in the first season of True Detective.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same exact feeling.
Which is pretty good for Super Fuzz.
Do you want to make flowers today? It's the most horrifying moment in a TV show ever. So Super Fuzz, there's crates in the backyard. It's a real serial killer type of situation. Oh, and then we learn that there's a mobster named Paradise. I looked it up. Not only is the mobster name, his first name Paradise, last name Alley, which kind of
perfect.
Which is kind of one of the most perfect things ever. So Paradise Alley throws the first punch, breaking his hand on Super Fuzz's face. The fight goes on forever, and it ends up with all the dogs being released from their cages and the mobsters being locked up in the dog crates. We cut back to the mobster at the beginning of the movie, and we learn that the head of the mob is a guy called Tony Torpedo, and that Rosie LaBouche, the actress that Ernest Borgnine is in love with, is the same lady from the beginning of the movie, and that she's working with the mobsters. And he tells his flunkies to go meet her at the airport. So we cut to the airport where Rosie LaBouche's plane has arrived with all 2 people there to greet her. There are 2 people with cameras in the scene, and Super Fuzz and Ernest Borgnine are also there. And Ernest Borgnine is about to bust a hole in his pants because he's so excited. And the mobsters finally show up, and Super Fuzz starts screwing with them to pass the time in a scene that was clearly written by Bruce Leslie himself.
Yes, true enough.
So the mobsters miss the pickup, and Ernest Borgnine ends up taking Rosie LaBouche to wherever she wants to go. And we cut back to the police station. We are now an hour into the movie, and we finally learn the plot to this movie. Someone is counterfeiting money and passing it off to everyone in town. No one knows who it is, and the chief tells Ernest Borgnine that he has to make it his main priority. He can't use his squad car as a taxi for actresses past their prime, like Jacqueline Smith. Oh, Brian, you and your love of Jacqueline Smith is insane. We cut to the dog track where everyone in this town is. And
I love it.
Tony Torpedo, Rosie LaBouche, the other mobsters are enjoying a nice day outside, betting on dogs, enjoying some of the fine culture that I guess Miami has to offer. There are so many people at the track that makes me ask the question, what is everyone doing on a random Tuesday that they don't have to work and they can all just go to the dog track in Italy? I do not understand it.
You guys ever been to a dog track, Greyhound track?
No.
I have been many, many times, and you'd be surprised at, like, if you live in a place, and at this time in this place, about the only legal gambling they had on a Tuesday would have probably been the dog track. So the gamblers, man, they are addicts. They come out. So you get a pretty good crowd, believe it or not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My parents lived in...
A dog track is also one of those things as a kid, you think it's really going to be cool to go to, but then later you realize it is not cool at all.
Mm-hmm.
My parents lived in Florida. My dad grew up in Florida mostly, and they had like dog track out in kind of like Fort Lauderdale area and stuff like that, and that and Highlight.
Yeah, that's what we had. We had Highlight.
Yeah, I live within 45 miles of a dog track right now, so I can go see dogs race as soon as we're done if I want to.
Hey, we can go start picking up dogs right now.
Hey, I don't want to flex or anything, but I know what my plans are if you two come visit me this summer.
Nice.
We're gonna go bet on the puppies.
Well, now I already know what I'm doing this summer. That's great.
Come on up.
Bruce isn't that where you got Jacob from the racetrack?
No, he's definitely not Santa's little helper.
I was gonna say he's Santa's little helper, right?
Not so much. This little rat.
Yeah, the dog I have he's something, I'll tell you.
Your mortal enemy.
He's definitely not fast.
Your mortal enemy.
Pretty much.
Ernest Borgnine's dog wins at the track. And Ernest Borgnine says, wow, 16-1. I'm going to go get my winnings, which means that Ernest Borgnine is really bad at gambling. Yeah, he won this race, but betting on a 16-1 horse means you're really bad at gambling.
Or he's got the inside track. Mm.
Oh, the old Italian hobo also happens to be at the dog track because, like I said earlier, the entire town is there, and he starts getting chased by the mobsters. They all hop in their cars, and Super Fuzz starts chasing them on foot. The mobsters get into a car wreck. Super Fuzz chases up to the old Italian hobo, and he asks him why his superpowers always seem to be on the fritz, to which this magical old Italian hobo tells him it's because of the color red. And now Super Fuzz knows his weakness.
Now, I have a question for you guys, especially you here, Adam. I want you to chime in as you're the newbie here. Did they at any point up until this moment, established that this hobo might know the answer to this question? Did they give us any reason Super Fuzz would ask this question of the hobo?
Not that I can recall.
Me either. Like it just seemed like a random thing to do. Like, you know what? I'm just going to run up to your car and ask you if you know.
Let me ask this magical old hobo. So we end up at Super Fuzz's apartment, and there is a lot that happens in this scene. This is the scene where the most things happen all at once in the entire movie. And so Super Fuzz is on the ceiling reading a Superman comic book because no one's worried about copyright issues in Italy in 1980. And the reason why this scene is such a big deal to me is because the set dressing in Super Fuzz's apartment is incredible. You look around his apartment, you got that weird picture of John Wayne on his kitchen cabinets.
Yeah.
You got 2 tennis rackets hanging on a wall. There's a huge Tonka truck for some reason in his house. But the piece de la resistance, there is also a poster of a baby with a bowl of spaghetti on its head.
A beautiful picture.
Why? Why is it there?
It's pure Americana.
There is no reason to have it there, but they just needed a poster, and all they had was a baby with a bowl of spaghetti on its head. That's
so great.
Why. That's literally why.
It's so great.
We finally get to a point where Ernest Borgnine finally believes that Super Fuzz has superpowers, and so does Super Fuzz's 1980 hot girlfriend. We also learn that Tony Torpedo is behind the counterfeit money. He's been transporting all his fake money inside a fish, and Super Fuzz's 1980 hot girlfriend tells him she doesn't like that he has superpowers, but he tells both his 1980s hot girlfriend and Ernest Borgnine that red makes him lose his superpowers, and she's going to have to learn to get over it. And this is the second problematic scene we have in this movie, where he freezes her so he can kiss her against her will, and then when he does so, unfreezes her, and she rightfully smacks him in the face.
Yeah, at least that happened. I was at least glad that it was just like, okay, at least she was just finally, thank goodness, because I was just like, please don't tell the kids out here, because this is a children's movie, that this is cool.
Yeah. And that brings us to the fourth reason why you should see this movie, because then we cut to a topless dance club. Because you see, Super Fuzz is tracking down all the places where the counterfeit bills have shown up around town, and it leads him to the strip club, where we see the unsexiest dancer I've ever seen in a movie. It's, first of all, it's only one dancer. It's not many dancers. It's just one. And it's not that she's an ugly lady, because she's not. It's that she's dancing like a girl in a 50s beach movie before people learn to dance to the beat of the music. And she's bored, and I'm guessing she's been on stage since they opened, because she looks incredibly tired.
If that thing you do is to be believed, they couldn't actually hear the music in those movies. They just had to dance, then the music was put in post.
Oh, that's a good note. Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why it looks like they're always offbeat.
Captain Geach and the Shrimp Boat Shooters. Super Fuzz meets up with the owner of the club, who is playing the world's longest game of pool, and Super Fuzz makes a bet with him, and Super Fuzz wins. The owner hands him 10 single dollars and says the line, 10 good American bucks, kid, which isn't suspicious in any way. Super Fuzz throws him into the bathroom, beats the crap out of him, throwing the counterfeit bills down the filthiest toilet in Italy. and Super Fuzz says he wants a piece of the action, because you see, what's happening is Super Fuzz is trying to convince the criminal underworld that he's a bad cop on the take, which is a scheme that lasts exactly 30 seconds.
Yes. I do have to say, when they were gambling over the pool cue, and he says 5, and he's like, well, I got 5 more. That makes it 10. I thought they were talking about like 5 C notes or 5 large or 5 grand, but it is $5.
It is $5.
Too rich for my blood.
Even at 7 years old, I knew those weren't high stakes.
I've got
We
$5.
We then cut to the Macombo Club, weird name, where Rosie LaBouche is performing torch songs for a massive audience of 15 people.
She's a massive celebrity.
And Ernest Borgnine starts getting creepy again, and Super Fuzz tells Borgnine about his plan, but Borgnine isn't listening to Super Fuzz's plan because he's behaving like Woody Woodpecker when he smells pie. and Ernest Borgnine wants nothing more than to dance with Rosie LaBouche, but admits he doesn't know how to dance.
See, this would so be me, like if Meredith Salinger was coming to town, I'd be, I gotta get her to dance with me. I hope Patton Oswalt doesn't see.
So when Super Fuzz, this is when Super Fuzz hypnotizes Borgnine and tells him he can dance like Fred Astaire. Now, do you guys know much about Fred Astaire?
I know that he's a better dancer than that.
Because I went down a Fred Astaire rabbit hole. Have you guys ever seen that one dance sequence where Fred Astaire is trying to like forcibly dance with Ginger Rogers, and Ginger Rogers keeps trying to step on his feet, and from that they make this entire dance sequence?
I've never seen that.
It's incredible. It is incredible, and Fred Astaire is amazing. And
see, I come from a blue collar family, so we were Gene Kelly folks.
Well, and that's the other part to this, right? Is that like if you want someone who looks like they're floating on air, that's Fred Astaire. But if you want like a super athletic dancer, that's Gene Kelly, right? Mm-hmm. And like the feats of strength of Gene Kelly versus looking like he's not even touching the ground, Fred Astaire. And
you need somebody in roller skates for Xanadu. That's Gene Kelly.
Well, there's that also. Now, because so what Ernest Borgnine is doing here, he's dancing like an old white guy who's had too much to drink,
which is exactly how he dances in real life.
Yes, and while he's dancing with her, he spills his guts like a rat. He tells her that Super Fuzz has superpowers, and he tells her his weakness is because he's a massive loser.
He's the best character in this movie.
And yet he gets nowhere with her because he's a freaking joke and he's not a closer.
So in real life in 1980, you guys, you think Ernest Borgnine was pulling? You think he could pull in 1980? Because I bet you Ernest Borgnine, he was turning it down all the time. I bet.
I've got a bigger question. About this. Ernest Borgnine wins the Oscar for that one movie, right? The one where he falls in love. What is it?
Is it Marty?
Marty, yeah. He falls in love. He falls in love with that girl in Marty, right? And does he win the Oscar, or is he just nominated?
I don't think he won. I could be wrong.
Because the whole thing about that movie is that he's not an attractive man. And he's like maybe 40 in that movie. And the girl is also, not like the world's hottest lady, but like, they look good together, that kind of thing. And so my question is, do you think that Borgnine ever had a good year? where he looks at himself in the mirror and he's like, yep. They're coming after you. They're coming after you, Ernie.
I liked it. I would have liked to have been in the room the day he looked in the mirror and he said, you know what? Hollywood, that's where I belong.
Perfect. Yes, exactly.
I don't know. Listen, you see Mickey Rooney on TV at that point. You're like, I can do that.
Well, yeah, but Mickey Rooney is a good dancer though when he's young. Like when he is in those movies with Judy Garland, he is super talented then.
Here's the answer to whether or not Ernest Borgnine could pull. He was married to Ethel Merman, and that is no small feat. So you go Ernest Borgnine.
I honestly just a quick pass through. I'm gonna say probably his big heyday was gonna be in the 60s with McHale's Navy.
Yeah, I would think so. Right?
I think that's got to be like the kind of the height of the Borgnine.
He probably got pissed off because there were folks that thought he was Alan Hell in the 60s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there were like people would see him and they're like, McHale's Navy, he's dressed in a Navy outfit. Mm-hmm. And then they think Skipper And it's like
Sure.
Alan Hale, the skipper. So he used to get upset when people thought he was the skipper.
Nah, I'm on a better show than that. No, you're not. No, you're not. No.
So we cut to the back room, and Super Fuzz's plan is already fallen apart because the mobsters, we are literally one scene after that scene, by the way. Super Fuzz's plan's already fallen apart because the mobsters know he isn't on the take, and Super Fuzz uses his superpower to have Tony Torpedo tell him everything. We then cut to Tony Torpedo's boat, and in the most unbelievable scene in a movie about a cop who has superpowers, unless he sees the color red, Ernest Borgnine is airlifted onto the boat with a helicopter. And he starts looking around for evidence, which he eventually finds.
Let's mention that he gets like dangled down on like a rope ladder from the
he's
helicopter.
airlifted onto the boat with a helicopter. That's what I'm
And
saying.
it's like we're in a helicopter. I just can't get that there's an idea where you have two choices and one of them is Borgnine and he's the one you go with.
It's the most unbelievable scene in the entire movie. In a movie called Super Fuzz, Ernest Borgnine on a plank being airlifted onto a boat. I do not believe you. I am sorry. I do not believe you.
Oh, I'll go down. You stay up here.
Yeah, let's put that loser in charge of this. The guy who's failed at every turn. We'll have him do it this time. Maybe he's due. So Borgnine starts looking around for evidence, which he eventually finds, but like the fat loser he is, immediately gets caught, knocked out, and locked in the freezer by mobsters, who then sink the boat.
But at least they didn't shoot him.
And Borgnine wakes up just in time to learn that he's going to die a frozen, watery coffin.
That's gotta suck.
And the mobsters pin Borgnine's death on Super Fuzz, where he's charged with murder and sentenced to death, which finally brings you back to the beginning of the movie where Super Fuzz is on death row.
It's like, oh, you remember, but way back when, an hour and a half ago, I was telling you about how I was on death row.
But
you can have anything you want, and he gets chewing gum or bubble gum.
Well, we'll get there. We're now. I will leave this to the movie also. This is to the movie's amazing credit, is that they really do save the best for last in this movie. Because this is the final and best reason to see this movie. This is where it all begins. So they're strapping down Super Fuzz to the electric chair, and we see the red flowers that Rosie LaBouche left for Super Fuzz at the beginning of the movie. And very cleverly, Super Fuzz asks the warden for a piece of bubble gum, tells the priest reading him his last rites to please take the red flowers with him. And he does, takes him out of the room, so Super Fuzz can't see the flowers anymore. They throw the switch, electrocuting Super Fuzz, but it doesn't have much of an effect because he has his powers back. And he uses that to start shocking everyone else around him.
Yeah, I'm just gonna murder
a little bit of
everyone
shocker,
now.
What's his name? Wes Craven Shocker.
Yeah.
Mitch Pileggi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He Super Fuzz breaks out of his bonds, and then in the best scene, maybe not just in this movie, in any movie ever, Super Fuzz breaks out of his bonds and jumps through the wall of the prison.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of the movie is about to come up,
which magically turns him into a dummy on a wire harness, which plunges him directly into a nearby body of water. And when I say that I laughed a long time at this scene, I mean, it might have just been a minute, but it was really hard laughing. My God, I laughed so hard at that scene of the guy breaking out of prison. It is so funny, man.
And just in case you thought maybe there's a superpower he doesn't have,
Nope.
he talks to a carp or a
Yeah, we're getting there. And then Super Fuzz starts swimming around in the water, and he uses his superpower to ask a fish which way did Tony Torpedo suck a boat. And like any polite, right-minded fish, he tells Super Fuzz where to go. So Super Fuzz thanks him, and he finds Ernest Borgnine's frozen dead body. And so he does what anyone would do in this situation, Super Fuzz. He blows a bubble with his bubble gum so large that it becomes a hot air balloon.
So how long has Ernest Borgnine been under the water here? It takes a while for 5 attempts at an execution, right?
Let's give them the most we can possibly give them, and say that the justice system worked a little differently in 1980. So let's say every day they're trying to murder Super Fuzz. Like once a day they're trying to murder Super Fuzz, and they're like, "Oh, not today. Oh, not today." And so let's give this movie the benefit of the doubt. Say that it's been 7 days.
Conservatively,
that Ernest Borgnine has
That's
been
a long
under the
time
water.
to be under the water.
Yeah, let's give it 7 days, right?
and frozen.
So he blows a bubble with his bubble gum so large it becomes a hot air balloon, which not only takes both Super Fuzz and Ernest Borgnine out of the water, but above the skyline of Italy. And seeing the writing on the wall, both Tony Torpedo and Rosie LaBouche decide they're going to amscray to Cuba, and they've got Super Fuzz's 80s hot girlfriend as insurance. And every time we see the balloon from the ground, both Ernest Borgnine and Super Fuzz turn into dummies for some reason.
Taped to something that's clearly not chewing gum.
Oh,
I do like the part where Ernest Borgnine sniffs it and goes, "What is this?" Then he licks the balloon. Like the human actor Ernest Borgnine licked a filthy Italian balloon for this movie. That's dedication to your
The
craft.
second thing that he does is decide to lick it. And you're like, why did you go to licking it so fast?
And he wasn't directed to do that. It just struck him in the moment.
Well, when you hire Borgnine, you get the full package.
Yeah, you're getting that character in there as well.
You're getting all Borgnine.
What we didn't see is off camera, they smeared a little scotch on it. That's how they got him to
Smells like scotch.
Borgnine
loves scotch.
Full Borgnine.
So Super Fuzz jumps off the balloon onto the bad guy's plane and drives it into the ground, but not before turning his hand into a ham radio so he can call the police to the marina.
Best superpower yet. It's the CB radio power.
And when they land, Super Fuzz is already cleared of all charges. And just when you think the movie's over, Ernest Borgnine, being the beta cuck that he is, decides to jump off of the balloon.
He says, "You gotta catch me." Woo! Nobody says, "Come on, I will catch you." Nobody's encouraging him to jump. He puts it on his own shoulders to do it.
And Super Fuzz does, in fact, catch him, but the hole they make
I forgot about this.
Goes all the way to China.
This is the best
Something you
part of the
probably
movie.
wouldn't see in a Disney production these days.
Definitely not.
No, that you would see that in a Disney production because they'd have to try to sell it to China. They're like, listen, at some point by the end, they get to China. We get to see you. That's how Marvel sells it.
And then you think you've just seen the end of the movie, but you'd be wrong because we cut to the marriage of Super Fuzz and his 80s hot girlfriend. When he's about to kiss the bride, he pulls off her veil, and she now has completely red hair, neutralizing Super Fuzz's powers, meaning he can't freeze her against her will anymore. And we freeze frame the end.
And he's got that look on his face like, "Oh no, I went and got married when I shouldn't have." Like, life is over because I'm in a committed relationship and it's 1981.
And I don't have the upper hand. Boing.
That was the one that made me that look at the end. That was like, oh, that's where I got the Ed Helms bit from. Like he gives an Ed Helms face at the end of the movie.
Yeah, he totally does. He totally does.
But boy, this shows that, man, art. Not all art's the same. That's what this movie shows. Not all art is the same.
That's definitely true. And here's the thing about this movie. I would change nothing about it.
Oh God, no.
It's so perfect as it is. It's repetitive. It's overly long. It's problematic, and I would change nothing.
This might be the reason I like movies.
It might be. You're right.
This has
It's early
everything.
enough.
Like this is like the European version of those those African movies that they make, Adam, like the Homebrew.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Where like people might only get to go to one movie every few months, so you got to have everything in it. It's got to have action, comedy, romance, dancing. Well, that's what Super Fuzz is, man.
Yeah.
For a single-digit-year-old Bruce, it had everything. It had sex appeal with my grandma's friend, Rosie LaBouche. You had a guy talking to a fish. It had Ernest Borgnine showing me exactly what a man should be, so I knew how to grow up someday. It just had it all.
Open mouth, smiling at everything.
Oh, man.
Jeez,
the world could use one more Ernest Borgnine. I'd like to be him.
And Ernest Borgnine could use some crest. All right, before we get to our final review, we need to find out how this Italian superhero film relates back 1-to-1 with some other Italian guy named Sylvester Stallone. Is that right?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement, although a short one.
Oh.
Hello, Mr. Stallone. Jay Moore is the only credited stuntman on Super Fuzz. And with all the amazing dummy work in this movie, it's hard to believe they even used one stuntman. If you can believe it, Jay Moore is still working as a stuntman today.
Wow.
He worked on Black Panther, Bad Boys for Life, and Greenland. He's been a working stuntman for over 40 years. I can't even imagine what his morning pill regimen looks like. His pill case must be a rolling tool wagon. His bones are either laced with adamantium or they are now a fine dust. And we're speaking about him today because he also worked with you on the movie Escape Plan. Jay Moore doesn't publicly tell anyone his age, which I understand because I wouldn't want anyone to know that I was an 80-year-old working stuntman.
Yeah, they would not allow you.
And that is your Stallone connection this week. The world's oldest working stuntman, Jay Moore. I hope to speak with you soon. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
The Moore is because he loves stunt work.
Yeah, after watching this as a kid, I wanted to be a stuntman, but only for mild and or gentle stunts. Like I thought there might be a market for like the stuntman who, like I'll climb out a window, but only in the first floor, like that kind of thing.
I won't fall down a staircase per se, but I like into a sunken living room. Yeah, I'll fall into that.
Maybe.
I figured I could do any stunt that Ernest Borgnine could do.
Is it carpeted? Because I'd like
so
a
none
carpet
then.
to fall.
I can dance like Borgnine.
Well, here
Yes,
at
they
Hero
don't tell
Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does what are we calling this one again? Super Fuzz.
Super Fuzz.
Land on the Robin rating system for you, or Super Troopers?
I think watching it this time through, like I always knew that this had a place of fondness for me, and this was always that thing. Like in the pre-internet era, in particular, when you're around with your other nerdy friends, you're like, "Yeah, well, do you remember this? Do you remember that?" Well, Super Fuzz was one of those "Do you remembers" that would always impress your friends.
Yeah, definitely.
But quietly, I think it has influenced what I like and the way. Watching it this time, I just couldn't believe, it hit me at a very sensitive time and had an outsized impact on me. So I just don't see how I could give this thing any less than a Dick Grayson. I mean, it's got something for everybody. And if it's not got something for you, then you probably aren't listening to this podcast.
Definitely not.
Sean, what do you got?
This is the best movie we've ever seen. I know I say this a lot. This is the reason why we have a podcast, why I'm on this podcast, is for movies exactly like this one. It is weird. It is the hardest I have laughed in a very long time watching this movie and watching people just earnestly making a movie. And it is just the best. It is so, it is surprising. It is terrific. It's a Dick Grayson. It is my favorite thing we have ever seen.
I would love if his book would have been called Ernestly Borgnine. God, that'd be so good. That's
pretty good.
Ernestly Borgnine. For me, I think I'm going to go a good solid Tim Drake on this. I enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. It's no Django per se, but it is just that stupid, just great crap that comes out of Italy at this time and stuff. And even before then, after then, it's just Italy's just a weird place for movies in the 70s and 80s and stuff. And I'm all here for it. And Yeah, it's a lot of stupid fun, but it is stupid. Don't get us wrong. It is everything you've heard here happens in this stupid show, but it is it's worth it because it is hilariously dumb in so many instances. That will do it, everybody. Another episode in the bag. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a moment. Until then, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Just check out my YouTube channel at Anime Dad, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Nothing new up lately, but I'll get some stuff up sooner or later. So you can always check out there, or check out any of our other fine podcasts, like maybe some that you guys could tell us about.
Sean, what pray tell?
We have another podcast that we're going to do right after this one's over called The Mandalorian 30 Questions, where each week we ask ourselves 30 questions about the newest episode of The Mandalorian. So check that out.
And next week, we are going to be doing Bruce a favor and covering Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. The movie of which, what's his face? Hugh Grant has been lighting up the interview scene lately with. Have you heard about all that?
No.